Dear participants, I would like to apologize for not being with you today due to the change of date. However, I wanted to send you Dear participants, I would like to apologize for not being with you today due to the change of date. However, I wanted to send you this short message, even if the quality is not ideal, to let you know our willingness and hope to work with you, develop a common network and exchange best practices. Originally a European association, Eurosure International is developing into an international association with members in Africa and Middle East and soon from other regions of the world. We also opened Dear participants, I would like to apologize for not being with you today due to the change of date. However, Dear participants, I would like to apologize for not being with you today due to the change of date. However, I wanted to send you this short message, even if the quality is not ideal, to let you know our willingness and hope to work with you, develop a common network and exchange best practices. Originally a European association, Eurosure International is developing into an international association with members in Africa and Middle East and soon from other regions of the world. We also opened our membership to upstream and downstream stakeholders interested in waste management. Why? Learning from each other is very important, and we believe in holistic approaches instead of working in silo. We have all the same commitment, contribute to the protection of the oceans against pollution. We are all committed to the same MARPOL convention. Your discussions these 2 days focus on the implementation of PRF, general procedures and practices for installing PRF in Europe are not the same in all EU member states. Different legislations, different tax systems, etc. However, all have to get environmental permits and licenses to operate hazardous waste. Additional EU environmental legislations require PRF to contribute to the circular economy, and the collection of waste is only the first part of the activity. Challenges ahead are to adapt to new types of waste with the development of alternative fuels, while still be able to treat and valorize all e-waste. I understand that the follow-up of this workshop will be in the Netherlands in September. I will be very happy to meet you at this occasion and already invite you to visit 1 or 2 PRF of our network to make things more concrete and give you a chance to directly exchange with practitioners. I hope also to formalize soon our cooperation with you, with other African PRF and with port authorities, because PRF play an important role for marine environment. I thank you for your attention, and I'm really looking forward to meeting you in September. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
An association for port reception facility providers. She couldn't be in person, but that is her greetings to us and telling us that she's looking forward to meeting us in September and then share Europeans' best practices for us, with us. The next presentation comes from Umar from the African Circle Pollution Management Company in Nigeria. So we'll listen to what he has and how it operates also in Nigeria. Thank you. Umar, you can start, please.
Okay. Good morning, everyone.
You will have to share your screen, Umar.
Yes, I'm about to start.
Okay.
I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes, please. You are very, very audible.
Oh, okay. So my name is Omar Abubakar. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for African Circle Pollution Management Limited. African Circle Pollution Management Limited is the, let me start with the presentation. African Circle Pollution Limited is the sole operator of MARPOL in Nigeria. It's a wholly owned Nigerian company that has been contracted by the Nigerian Port Authority, who handle all ports activities to handle all for the collection, storage, and processing of ship-generated waste in all the navigational districts in Nigeria. There are 4 navigational districts in 4 different states and all of that. So eventually I'll tell you all of that. Now, our business, simply put, as we're all aware, we do MARPOL, which is the prevention of the maritime, prevention of pollution by the maritime environment, hence MARPOL. What we try to do is, like we said there, is to preserve the maritime environment through the complete elimination or the reduction of pollution by oil and other harmful substances. This is guided by the MARPOL 73-78 Convention to deal with that. What do we do? So, like we rightfully said, we collect waste on behalf of the Nigerian Ports Authority. There are mainly from the way it's done, there are mainly 2 form of waste collected, liquid waste and solid waste, which is MARPOL Annex 1 and MARPOL Annex 4. So we do them according to best environmental practices and also best available technology for the collection of all the waste. Can everyone hear me, or am I talking too fast or too slowly? Harry?
Hello, Umar? We can
said, is everyone hearing me?
Yes,
or am I talking too fast?
Yeah, we hear you very well. Our problem is your slides are a bit shifted. So some parts of your text is missing. Exactly. Now it's it's perfect now. Okay. It's perfect.
Is it
now.
better?
Yes. Otherwise, you are audible. We hear you loud and clear. So kindly go ahead, please.
Okay. So let me see if I could just make.
I think also the tempo, your rate of. I think he's not too fast, right? Yeah, you're not too fast. They hear you.
Is it?
They're okay with you.
Sorry?
You are not too fast.
Okay.
They are okay with you. Yes. They hear what you say.
All right. No problem.
Thank you.
Let me go to the next thingy page. Sorry, my thing is frozen a little bit. Let me just wait for it to come up. Just 1 second, please. I'm having some issues with my network. I'll try and reshare it again. Just bear with me, please. So as I was saying, there are 4 navigational ports in Nigeria, which we operate as the sole MARPOL operators. So the first and the busiest is Tinkan Lagos Port Complex, which happens to be the busiest port in the whole of West and Central Africa. It's in Lagos State. The second one is in Port Harcourt. They have 2 terminals there in River State. In Delta State again as well, there are 2 ports there in Calabar. These are all major ports within the Nigerian port environment, and this is where our operations take place. So usually the vessels call in all these ports and we handle it. So usually how the operations really work is we have we have a relationship with the shipping agents, and we also use some information networks like marinetraffic.com to be able to find out where the location of vessels coming into port, and that way we're able to tailor our operations and service these vessels. As most of us are quite aware, the maritime industry is was time sensitive. So the earlier you're able to do it, the better to do. So typically what happens is when a vessel comes to port, we go to the vessel, and usually there's a joint inspection because we are a private company and we're contracted by the Nigerian Ports Authority. So for each operations to happen, we have to do a joint inspection with our staff and the staff of the Nigerian Ports Authority. They go on board the vessel. When they go on board, when a vessel comes in, the shipping agencies usually inform us that the vessel, for example, is at berth 9 in Lagos Port Terminals. So our staff will go on board the vessel and they inspect all the necessary documents on the vessels for the collection of it. So this includes their waste log, the oil records, and a couple of other documents and everything to ensure that these vessels are actually compliant to the MARPOL. And then what happens after that, there is a conversation between our staff and either the chief engineer or the captain on board. They usually tell us what sort of waste they have and the quantity of waste available for evacuation. After that is done, we look at first of all, the things that we require. We find out where the location of the vessel is, the quantity and where it is located, and then we agree on a time for which the waste are going to be evacuated. Am I clear so far?
Yes, you are, Omar.
Okay, so depending on the kind of waste, there are some vessels, all they're going to discharge is MARPOL Annex 1, which is liquid waste. So we can either send our tugboats or tanker trucks to go alongside it, or our barges to go alongside the vessels to go and pick it up and collect it. Now, once everything has been collected, there's a waste certificate which we present to the vessels to ensure that this thing is done. Now, IMO is quite, Guido, correct me if I'm wrong, but IMO is quite keen on ensuring that the vessels that come to port do not pollute the maritime environment, and they also have to do an audit trail and a cradle to grave operations. Now, the audit trail states where the origin of the waste is, and then the last stage of the waste. While the cradle to grave, the cradle being the source, which usually are the vessels, and the grave, which is the final sort of it. As much as possible, we try to reuse, recycle, or put those things in thinking, because we are, as a waste management company, we try as much as possible to use everything possible. So the waste certificate ensures that it shows in any port that the vessel was in Lagos port or in Port Harcourt port, and the waste which was on board was collected by African Circle and was taken to the port reception facility for further treatment. So far, so good?
Yes, please. You are good, yeah.
Okay. So, like I earlier said, the waste usually comes in two forms, either liquid waste or solid waste. So which is MARPOL Annex 1 and MARPOL Annex 5. So depending on the states which they come in, they are collected and we take them to our waste reception facility for further segregation and further treatment. Now, we've been in operations for 19 years now. And throughout the processes, what we've noticed is that usually they come in two forms, liquid waste and solid waste. And for the solid waste, most of the things, 70% of the waste which are collected, liquid or solid waste, are PET bottles. But then we have other things as cartons, cans, nylons, and then you have generally non-recyclable things like waste paper and things that can't be done. Now, the recyclable waste are further segregated, and depending on the state, they are given up to other things. Like I said, 70% of the solid waste are collected as PET bottles. So the PET bottles usually are compressed and formed into little bales, which are given up. We have a company, Alchem, that use the waste as well for making of things like polythene bags and paper or even cloth to do that. There is a popular carrier bag which we call in Nigeria. Forgive me, Harry. We call it a Ghana must go bag. I'm sure you're aware of that bag. It's used for carrying stuff and everything. So that's for the solid waste, and then for the liquid waste, we have two oil water separator plants. One is located in Lagos State, and the other one the processes of aeration, biological treatment, and emulsification to separate it from oil and water to ensure that it's up to the 5 parts per molecule, which is the standard for it to be put back inside the ecosystem for further reuse. And the oil, we have industries within the company that use the oil as an alternative for diesel. It's cheaper and is used for burning of furnaces and kilns to just increase the temperature there. The other sediments which we have are further treated we have companies that use it for bitumen, for tar, coal tar, and everything else. So like I said, we have two technologies we use depending on where our location is. Seraplan is used for treatment of our plant. That is located in our plant in River State, Port Harcourt, while G-Force is the one that is located in Lagos State. So the next slide just shows you what our plant is. So this is the Seraplan located in River State. Here is the receptor tanks, and this is the facility collected in it. And here is our G-Force plant in Lagos State, Snake Island, to do that. This is just another picture of that for the one in Port Harcourt to do so. And this is just some of the pictures of the thing. These are barges which I said that come alongside the vessels when they come into port to come and handle it. Here it's a cross-section of some of our vessels, our tugboats, our inspection vessels, and the self-propelled barges that go alongside to go and collect it. Now, I just took the liberty to talk about the reasons why we need international collaboration. I know Ari is quite big on international collaboration, and I do believe that definitely it is to our advantages. I have been fortunate to have had a meeting with PENAF to discuss some of these things, and for us, we believe like Africa as a whole, definitely we need to, because PRFs and MARPOL is still in infancy, so we need together to come up together as one to talk about our shared experiences, to be able to talk about things and tailor-make a PRF that is for Africa as a whole and as a world, to be able to deal with the local context, things that are more pressing to us in terms of our own needs and location in the world where we are. It's also, like I said, for development of human capital, productivity, and also it also helps us bringing in money to the economy and giving it as well, because like we said, it's the maritime environment is quite huge, and it does help in with a country where that is complying and is friendly to the IMO should definitely boost the images of the country to the other parts of the world to ensure other vessels come into a trade, which by that it just increases its own quota in ensuring that there's a foreign trade in the company, in the country, sorry. So that is my just little presentation. I hope I've not confused you. And I've impacted something for you. So I'm open to questions or any form of clarification. Thank you. Ari?
Hello, Umar. Thank you so much for that brilliant presentation. I guess you kind of make it clear what you do. So I would leave the floor open to the practitioners on the site. And then they ask you, because I could hear that for your garbage, 70% is PET bottles, which for me is really interesting. And the issue of so I don't know, but I leave the floor open. And then what are our experiences? What did we hear from him? What kind of questions do we have? Please, he's open to.
I'm finding it difficult to hear properly. Please, could you give them the mic so I can hear what they're saying?
Yes, I'm going to give them. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Perfect.
Okay, Mr. Moderator, thank you very much. Mr. Presenter, Mr. Abubakar, my name is Samuel from Ghana. I have about 5 questions for you, so if you can write them for me, please, and you answer them. 5 questions.
Okay, just 1 second. Let me just get some paper. Okay, I'm listening.
First one. Anyway, thank you for joining us. In an attempt to do your work, what are some of the challenges you face with all the stakeholders when you do work?
Okay.
Secondly, I think I saw somewhere in your slides that IMO is not in agreement with incineration anymore. If you can throw more light on that side. The next one, I want you to clarify.
So what did you say?
I saw somewhere in your slides saying that IMO is not somewhere, there's something like no more interested in incineration.
Yes.
To incinerate.
Umar, what he means here that IMO is not interested in incineration of waste.
Incineration. Yeah, I get that. I get that.
Okay. So the next one. Regarding the records examination, I want you to be very clear whether it is your people going to do their work, record book, garbage record book, and oil record book. Which of them? Is it your company that does the examination or the port authority?
Could you say that again?
The records of the books of the ship, the garbage record book and the oil record book.
So, Umar,
I'm finding out from you which is it your people that do the inspection or the authority that does the port that does the inspection of that. And also,
Umar, hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yep. So you indicated that you do joint inspections. So what he wants to know is that when it comes to the inspection of the record books of the vessels, who takes charge? Do you do it, or is it the authorities with whom you do the inspection? So that's the question.
Okay.
Okay, then that's one. You only identify the annexes 1 and 5. Do you do any other annexes apart from that? And then the last one, what general procedure do you go through when you want to collect waste? Thank you very much, Mr. Abubakar.
What was the last question?
What procedure do you go through when you want to collect waste, transport it, and then actually treat it and actually dispose it of?
So the last question, Umar, is the procedure you go through in your collection, treatment, and disposal.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abubakar.
No problem. That's fine. Thank you very much. So for your first question, The challenges that we face from stakeholders, amongst many other things. One of the things which we face is that, unfortunately, MARPOL is still rather new. There's a lot of ambiguity amongst many things regarding MARPOL, and most people tend not to want to comply with it. So because it's an important regulation sometimes, so the main foreign vessels usually comply with what it is that we have to do, but other local vessels, like especially fishing trawlers and other shipping smaller agencies, find that they try as much as possible to avoid making things. Now, one of the other challenges we face, waste management really is capital intensive project. So for the provision of some of these services, the costs are quite high, and the people tend not to want to pay for it because they don't see the value of it. So a lot of times you always have to end up trying to sensitize people to get them to understand the whole process, why you're doing this, while the added benefits for trying to do this and all that. And because sometimes where there are a lot of coastal settlements within the ports, you find out that a lot of times that the waterways are also further polluted by the environment, by the people living within those local areas. So you have to spend a lot of time trying to change the orientation of people. You have to do a lot of CSR. You have to go to all these villages telling people that, look, what you're doing is harmful for the environment. You have to set this thing up. To the point that we have an agency called the MASA, which deals with the safety, the administration of safety and Nigerian Maritime Safety and Security and Safety Administration agencies that's taken up upon itself to go to all these local agencies to provide local communities, to provide bins, to provide areas, and then also come in on occasions to clear distance to avoid these communities polluting the environment. Another challenge which we face is the industry is over-regulated as well. So because it's an environmental agency, you have to adapt to the local laws. And also, we have environmental agencies that have to do with how much you could dispose of treated water in the environment. So those ones come in on a regular basis, like on a quarterly basis, that are coming to check in to ensure that you're complying to those standards, what you're doing. We have another agency that deals with oil spill detections and regulations. These ones come on a quarterly basis, unannounced, to ensure that all our tanks are fully calibrated. We have all our policies in check, and we have all of these things ready. So there's a lot of bottlenecks. There's a lot of bureaucracy. There's a lot of red tape involved in it. And then there's a lot of people that you still have to keep on engaging, keep on educating to show that you're adding value to it. It's unfortunate. People tend, in this area where we come in, people see MARPOL as a form of a garbage collection. You know, they don't see us as adding value to things. They just see us as coming in to just collect waste from people. So you have to keep on encouraging them. You have to keep on teaching them, showing the value which you are adding to the maritime environment, to the world as a whole, and to the country as a whole. It's quite challenging, and it's consuming and quite capital intensive as well to do that. I hope I've answered that fully, sir. And then the second question, I was just saying about IMO is not talking, doesn't talk about incineration anymore, because like I said in earlier on in my presentation, um, there are usually 3 R's of this thing that we use: reduce, reuse, and recycle. Those are the processes for waste management. So you reduce the amount of waste which you're collecting. Sometimes the waste you collect, you reuse them. So you find other alternative means for collecting, for use for them. So like where before you use the PET bottles for drinking water, you can use it for collection of something else, oil and things like that. So you know how our economy works and all. And then recycle, which we do with the PET bottles. We have, they use it for other making of plastics, amongst many things. Now, incineration, depending on what you use it for, incineration can be harmful to the ecosystem which we're using, because sometimes you have to ensure that the flue gas that is taken from the incineration is not harmful to the environment. And there's also an Annex 6 that came into existence in January 2020, which deals with sulfur, right, Guido? The amount of sulfur in the environment, and that has to do with the fuel and diesel you're using. And that is also in the bid to prevent the pollution of the ecosystem from gases that are being released by the environment. So as much as possible, IMO is trying to move away from incineration. It's an archaic, it's an old technology, and newer ones are being introduced. Is that right, Guido?
That is correct.
Thank you. So the third question you were asking about cargo, just remind me again, what exactly was it that you were asking for cargo?
It means the record books. The record books. You know, the record books on the vessels. The vessels are supposed to keep records on waste-generated oil, what times they did a change, where they may have disposed them, what quantities they have on board, so that these books can always be verified.
Sorry, say that again,
for
please.
inspection, during inspection. So how do you do this? Does your company get involved in that, or it's only left for NIMASA and the other state agencies to do? That's what he wants to know.
Sorry, I didn't hear that. Come again, please, one more time. Sorry.
The record books of the vessels, yes.
Yes.
Does African Circle get involved in inspecting those books to check the figures in there, or it's left for NIMASA and the other state agencies?
No, so like I said earlier on, if you see why I said we work with the Nigerian Ports Authority. They are the authority in charge of like providing port services to all the vessels that come into port. So when we go in to inspect the vessels, all the necessary documents that are required from the vessels, both our both our staff and the staff of the authority look at it. Ours is to ensure that they were able to find out the last port of call, the quantity of waste they have, and if they actually discharge it according to the IMO regulations to do that. And then we make the arrangement for the collection. Now the authority is there to check it as well, to ensure that from the last port of call, it was discharged according to those regulations, and they were doing it according to how they're supposed to do, if they declared it right or they didn't. Now, if there's a default and the vessel did not do that well, it's the responsibility of the authority to detain that vessel and ensure that they do the right thing, and also find the vessels according to the local regulations and do that, because if they're not complying, it means they're not doing those things. Because the vessels are reported and then they are fined according to the kind of offense they committed. So, like to say, both our staff and both the authority staff look at the record books of the vessels. It's not just all the oil records. There are a lot of other things mentioned. It's the oil book record that I could just remember from the top of my head at the moment. I could look for the other documents they check and forward it to you on a later date.
Thanks for that clarification. So that means that your company is trained with the ability to be able to read and interpret the record books, right?
Yes, yes.
So they have a role to play, the Port Authority has a role to play, as well as NIMASA. NIMASA is our form of National Maritime Authority. That's
yes.
And you
so
do it, and you do it together. There's a question
They're
here.
all together, yes.
Is it always? Do you always do it together, or sometimes?
It has to, because we are the service providers, but they are the enforcers. And like I earlier said, one of the challenges which we face with local vessels flying is that because they don't have to fall within because the size of their vessels do not form part of the MARPOL, they try to get away without having to do the discharging according to IMO principles. But the vessels that are coming to port are eligible, and they have to discharge their vessels according to MARPOL regulations. So these are the authorities there to ensure that, first of all, they are complying and they're doing it according to the way they do. So definitely they have to come on board each vessel that calls to port to ensure that these things are done according to the MARPOL Convention 73-78 Convention.
But Umar, if you said local vessels, what do you mean by local vessels?
So we have shipping trolleys, service boats. We have barges and tankers that, within the local industry that don't go from country to country. They just move within Lagos or within Port Harcourt, servicing things. Barges that move local goods from one terminal to another. We have service vessels. We have dredgers that come in to dredge the channel to ensure that it's deep enough. And then we have fishing boats that go offshore to go and fish for tuna, fish and come back to port. But those ones are below the 100 and 400 GRT MARPOL regulations. Do you understand?
Yes, I do, but I guess it's basically, I asked it just for the information of our participants here so that we can get it clear.
Yes.
But
okay.
I want to announce that this program is streaming live on all the social media handles for GPHA, but on port, so on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the handles. So kindly go there, follow, comment, and then let it be known that something good is happening in GPHA. Thank you. Umar, kindly go ahead, please.
Thank you. Okay. So, and I believe the last, the other question he asked, I mentioned just liquid waste and solid waste, MARPOL Annex 1 and MARPOL Annex 5. I mentioned those ones because those are the major ones which we do. There are other ones that are not as frequent. So, like, for example, MARPOL Annex 4, which is sewage. Most foreign vessels now, the newer vessels coming with in situ sewage treatment plants on board. So they treated their own things on board, so they don't require the evacuation of sewage amongst these things. MARPOL Annex 2, which is, MARPOL Annex 3, dangerous goods and package forms, those are a rarity. Sometimes we've gone like 2 or 3 years without having to collect one in the country. So those are not the things. But for liquid waste and solid waste, we do that on a regular. For example, in Lagos, in June 2022, we collected about 120,000 kilograms of solid waste in 1 month from 213 vessels that came to port. So that was a regular occurrence. And I have to look for the this thing for liquid waste, but it's almost about over 200 million liters of MARPOL Annex 1 collected in June 2022. So that's the reason why I said they usually come in those two forms, liquid and solid waste. We all do all the annexes, but sometimes it's based on the demand, but the main one has always been discharged is MARPOL Annex 1 and MARPOL Annex 5.
All right, thank you. Did we answer all the questions? Are you okay now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I think the procedure.
He did. Yeah, procedure. So I'm going to give you something that I did one for the NEMASA and what we do. Oh, hang on. Is it? No, sorry. No, this one's the wrong one. Just 1 second.
Yeah,
is this one. Just 1 second.
It's the network challenge. So I guess we all know what's happened sometimes with this. So yeah, okay, we are there.
Yes. Sorry, I'll just show you the ones. Just 1 second, please. No, this is not the one. Just 1 second. Okay. There you go. So just to make it clear how we really do it, like I told you earlier on. No, this isn't the one. Sorry, 1 second. So now this is simply for Lagos ports. These are some of the equipment which we use for the collection of the depending on the waste we do. To answer your questions, you can see we attend to all the annexes, and these are the types of the this is the waste type, and these are the equipment which we have for the collection of those things. Right? Is that clear so far? So like I informed you, this is the thing done. So when they brought in, I have some of the pictures from some of our operations, which I'll share a couple with you, just so that you can see some of the procedures. I think that'll probably be a better idea to see how we do our things. But basically, so when it comes in, they are weighed and sorted. Like I said, recyclables, cartons, plants are sorted and built for onward transmission. And this is the combustibles being put in the incinerator according to the incineration. The purpose of the secondary burner is to ensure that the flue gases, the organisms in the flue gas is fully killed and there's nothing there, and then they're tested before they are being released into the atmosphere. Like I said, you're trying to prevent the pollution of the atmosphere by these gases. So it falls under MARPOL Annex 6. I know that's one. And for liquid waste, I had already discussed that with you in terms of the separation. You allow it to rest for 6 hours where oil comes down and where oil goes up, and then water comes down. And then they go through the whole processes and they're treated. So permit me I'll just put the pictures of some of our operations on ground. If I known that you wanted it to be this detailed, I would have done it. So please forgive me. I would have done a better work with that one, but I'll try and show you a couple of things just so you can have a bit of an idea of what's going on. Oh, not here. Just 1 second. No, this one. Sorry, you're on the right side. All right. So answer. Just 1 second, please. Forgive me. Forgive me, please. I'll be with you soon, shortly. Okay. For lack of okay. So yes. Oh, just forgive me, please. I'll be with you shortly. I didn't realize it's gonna. Okay. So I'll start off with just some pictures just to show you. Oh, there. It's I can't share the files because it's not supported, unfortunately. But I'll try to see if I have some to. Just 1 second. From some of my presentations which I've done to show you some things. Unfortunately, they're not here. The pictures are not showing as it doesn't support it. What I can do is, Harry, probably before lunchtime, I'll send you a link with some of the procedures on ground, and then later we can explain everything to everyone, if that will work.
Yeah, that would be fine. But then also we need you to send us your presentation because
okay,
so we can do that together. The link together with the presentation.
I'll do that.
Thank you.
I'll do that.
Thank you very much. So there are other questions on the floor, so you hold on.
Hello, thank you, sir. My name is Frank Pinto. Sometimes during our boarding and inspection on the vessels, the officer in charge will say we are coming from Nigeria. So anything to discharge or to deliver. Because you've made it mandatory in Nigeria to evacuate all waste, or especially the liquid waste they have on the vessel. Please, can you confirm or explain yes or no?
So the way it's done is that usually for the services which we've provided, it's already included into the harbor bills presented to the vessels before they come to port. So it's already been paid for in advance. It's already been paid in advance before the vessels come into port. So it's in the interest of the vessels to discharge, because otherwise they're just paying for services which they're not. They're paying for services which they're not collecting. So right ahead of time before they come to port, they've already paid for it. Ours is to come in to ensure that the payment is being done. And for us, our own business model is business to government. The Port Authority is our customer. And so whatever it is, we service the vessels, and we charge the Port Authority for the services which we've provided. So it's in the interest of the vessels to just discharge of it because they've already paid for this services to the Nigerian Ports Authority. So, and that's why it makes it a lot easier when we come to attend to the vessels, they discharge the liquid waste and solid waste to us because, this, like I said, the services have already been paid for.
Thanks for that clarification, but I also want to add something to this. So that's what it is, and that's why cooperation amongst the port authorities in the region is quite important. Nigeria has a system of indirect charges. It's the same system that we have in Ghana, indirect. So it's compulsory use the facility, you pay whether you use it or not. Now the spirit behind why we adopted that for Ghana was that if ships, I mean, we all know that the shipping industry is a kind of mafia. If you allow them, they will not pay, they will not discharge, they will dump. But if they know that they are paying, then why don't they have to discharge? But we need to have collaboration to be sure. That, I mean, between Ghana and Nigeria, if they discharge there, how many hours are they steaming to Ghana? They don't have enough waste to discharge. So if we have information exchange and collaboration, then it's clear. Their certificate is accepted here. Our certificate accepted there. And then we work together. I say this because when we started introducing this, we had some challenges. We had vessels coming from Nigeria. At that time, African Circle was not established, actually. It was in 2004. We had Tilbury. And then these vessels will come in here, and then they will give you fake certificates. And we said, no, we cannot accept them. So we had to do it on our own. But then, now, Nigeria has a very good facility. Ghana has good facilities. We need to see. It's not only between us. Abidjan, Douala, all these. So these are some of the things that we need to bring across, that we can begin to collaborate. We even had a challenge where a vessel came from Antwerp, I remember. And it got here. And then they had to pay. And then I got a call from the environment manager that why are we charging the vessels that are coming here? Because the Europeans have a system where if you pay, you get a certain incentive. But if they pay here and they go there, they cannot get that incentive. Then I asked the question, is MARPOL only for European ports, of African ports as well? So it also tells you the gaps even between international conventions. That's why all these collaborative arrangements are very important. It's an international convention, all ports are obliged to comply with, but we need to share information, have agreements, and then be able to work together. So these are some of the issues that we really want to address. As I just want to add that to one by explanation. Thank you. I think there was a question somewhere.
Hello, my name is Rashid. I would like to know the procedure that African Circle goes through before your tanker goes into the port for the discharge of sludge or liquid waste.
Before what?
The procedures that you follow before your tankers are allowed to go into the port or along the ship side to discharge the liquid waste.
Okay.
Okay, receive.
You said the tankers, right?
Yes, so you kind of course, you use barges as well also. So how do you let your tanker trucks or your barges to go alongside vessels to take the waste from
so
ships?
like I earlier said, at the point of the inspection which we do, usually the vessel agents and the local agents of the vessels in the ports we're at are present while we're doing the inspections. So once we check the waste logbooks and everything, and we're setting the type and the kind of waste and the quantity to be evacuated, that's when we agree with the chief engineer, the captain, and the chief engineer, the captain, and the agents when we're coming for the collection of the waste. Now, if it's if we're using our barges, usually what happens is that if we're going to use our barges, it means that the quantity we're going to collect is more than 33 cubic meters of liquid waste. Because we have our tankers, the highest is about 45 cubic meters. That's 45,000 liters, I believe. So if anything higher than that, we have to discharge our barges to use it. So we usually agree on on a radio signal, one of the things which we do is that we find out the berth, the location where the vessel is. Then we let our barges go alongside the vessel. Before it comes there, we are in contact with the shipping agency. Vessel MRV African Circle 1 is about to proceed from jetty to Apapa Berth 1 to service, let's say, MSC Desert Eagle. So we come alongside it. While we're there, we radio the station and let them know that, okay, we're alongside. It's time for your vessels to discharge, either put on the hose. If we're doing ship to ship, the hoses are connected to their own hoses. And then once it's ready for connection for discharge, they start discharging. If it's less than 33 cubic meters, we usually use our tankers because, like I said, we're working with the Nigerian Ports Authority. Our vessels are already branded with the Nigerian Ports Authority, so access to the port is already easy for us. So the vessels just come in, go to the location of the vessels and just park alongside the vessel for the collection of waste.
Thank you, Ubar. Yeah, I heard something here. So no formal letters need to be written to the authorities to inform them that a PRF operator is coming into the port to take waste.
So with that one, it's if depending on the waste we're collecting, if it's garbage, there's no problem. But because of the bunkering issues that we've been facing in Nigeria and the Gulf of Guinea as a whole, if we're about to go and collect liquid waste, we usually get written permission from the Nigerian Navy to say that on the 21st of July, we're attending to MRV, MSC Desert Eagle, and we're collecting 45 cubic liters of oil from the vessels at so port. The Nigerian Navy stamps it, gives us the permission, and we give it there. So in terms of when they're coming to do their inspections, they see this and they know that it's not an illegal job we're doing, and we're actually doing a MARPOL services. Like I said earlier on, there are a lot of people that are not aware of what we do, so we have to keep on doing the whole sensitization and informing people this is what we're doing to know.
Thank you. Another question coming up, Umar.
All right. Thank you. I wanted to find out all the pilotage, and are you the only port reception facility licensed by NPA handle vessel waste?
Yes, ma'am. We're the only licensed MARPOL service providers for the Nigerian Ports Authority in Nigeria. And we're located in all the ports and navigational districts along the country. So anywhere the Nigerian Ports Authority is, African Circle is there. You're muted, I can't hear you.
Hello? Okay. So, per your pictures, between Tinker and Apapa, I realize you have a facility there. Is it a storage facility, or you treat the waste you take from there? And if you treat it in the port, is there any challenge you're facing? So that Ghana ports could also learn from some of your success and then challenges.
So it's a proper port reception facility. It's for the collection, storage, and treatment of wastes and everything we do there. A lot of the times, so some of the challenges which we face has to do with port congestion. To come in and get out of the port is always very difficult to do. That's due to the amount of traffic coming into the port. So we definitely have to be able to plan our things accordingly to what we do. So usually what happens is that for, let's say for plastics, for example, we usually have a threshold for storage. What we usually do is that, so as we're collecting them, we're compacting them and baling them into sizes of about 450 kg what's it called, of plastics. And usually, once we have about 10 bales of plastics, we usually call the contractor to come and pick it up because our capacity is about 15. So between getting 10 to 15 plastic bales, we expected that the contractor comes in to collect it to prevent a backlog. And you know, for some of these things, it's definitely a domino effect. If your storage capacity, if things are full and you are not able to store anything, that means you're not able to discharge and you're not able to service any other vessels. And at that point in time, you're not compliant. So you try as much as possible to prevent any form of congestion in your storage to get it going. So it's really all about timing and organization and getting things, everything on standby.
From your presentation, it looks as if you have other companies that treatment, recycling.
Oh, yeah.
So what waste
yeah.
do you recycle or treat in the facility located in the port? And what do you give out?
So mainly the wastewater, liquid waste, those are the main ones that we have our oily waste production facility to be able to treat that and all. And then we have our incinerator for burning of non-combustible things. Waste management is a very, it's quite complex and there are a lot of things involved with there. And remember, like I said, there are always, you have to keep on doing the whole audit trail and the 3 R's of waste management: reuse, reduce, and recycle. So the baling of the compactor which we use, we're already reducing the size of the PET bottles to allow for the third-party people to use it. And you can't have an all-encompassing things. You can't be the person treating waste and producing plastics or smelting of glasses or smelting of or reduction of aluminums. You have to find guaranteed and certified people that you know that you can always come to their facility and audit them and ensure that these people also are not polluting the environment, because this is what IMO will come in and look at it, the audit trail and cradle to grave. The audit trail now says, and this is where our waste certificate comes in, where if we attend to MSC Ghana, for example, we know already the quantity of waste we've collected, 50 kg of plastics, 10 cubic meters of oil and all that. We give you a waste certificate which shows this has been collected and has been brought to our facility for treatment. And now if you go to any other port, you can show them that at the last port of call, this has been given and it shows that you're complying. And now for us, we collected this waste. So we wait for the cartons to be full to the, let's say we have about 3,000 kg of plastic, of cartons. Now we take them to a local manufacturing plastic that deals with cartons and they are treated. So for us now, MSC Ghana was the cradle, the source of that cartons that came in. And the local producer or user of cartons is the grave, is the final stage where the cartons is used. So that is the audit trail and the cradle to grave process. So the factory there is the final stage for the cartons that they use for their own processes. So at each point in time, it shows that none of the waste collected is being put back in the ecosystem. Rather, it's being further reused and it's not polluting the ecosystem of Nigeria.
Okay. So my last question, okay. Do you handle medical waste? Have you had expired medicine or then do you have a procedure or a facility if you don't handle, but when you take them, do you have a side company in the country that handle expired medication or any form of medical waste? Thank you.
We don't handle what's it called, medical wastes, but we have a third-party agreement with the company that does medical waste. And what really happens whenever that there's an expired medical waste, there's a drug law enforcement agency in Nigeria called NDLA, Nigerian Drug Law Enforcement Agency. They have to come in on board the vessels to ensure that, one, they're not illegal drugs, and they're certainly expired, and then they have the documents to show those things are. So with the permission of the enforcement agencies, sometimes we do collect those wastes, the medical waste, and then we go and transport them to the people to ensure that they are disposed of accordingly. And when they are done, they give us a certificate to ensure. Sometimes they usually invite us to come and see when the destruction is taking place so that we can ascertain that, yes, those things were fully treated.
Thank you, Mar. There's another question here.
I want to know whether you handle expired fire extinguishers.
Sorry?
Please, I want to know whether your company handle expired fire extinguishers.
No, we don't. But if we evacuated them on board, we also have a company that deals with pyrotechnics and other things. I believe, I don't know, Guido, expired fire extinguishers, would they fall under Annex 3? Or what would they fall under?
No, Annex 5.
Annex 5. Okay.
But the recommendation of IMO is that it would taken back by the companies that deliver the new pyrotechnics, because there are not that many recognized companies that have the necessary facilities to handle this. And the best one is the company that delivers the pyrotechnics, which are used on ships in case of emergency, that you can send a rocket into the air. If it is out of use or not used anymore, then you can deliver it back. So that's the principle in Europe and the recommendation in general.
I guess Guido, come on after him, you pick that up, because it's something that is on the table since yesterday. So kindly note it. Hello, yep. Umar?
Yes, I'll have to leave now. I'm running late for the other appointment I have. So please, any questions, you can share my email address. I'll try to answer the questions via email if there's any more.
So, a big round of applause for our presenter.
It was a pleasure meeting you guys, and all the best.
Umar, thank you so much.
We'll talk later.
It's been a beautiful presentation you've given us. We're looking forward to possibly coming to in November or December. If it's possible, then we can have our EU-African meeting. Let's pray that it works. Then we can bring everybody here to Nigeria. Thank you. Okay, so folks, we heard the Nigerian experience, right? Lots of lessons to learn, and that's why cooperation is very important. These are our next door neighbors. These are our big brothers. They also have lessons to learn from us, actually, when we sit to talk. So we're just trying to gather the necessary information and then ask ourselves the questions and what to do and how we can also improve performance. So that's it. So we move on to the next presentation from Guido van Meel. He is currently a maritime consultant, but he also used to be the Secretary General of the European Association for Port Reception Facility Providers. He has a huge experience in this field, so he's going to share with us how it is done in Europe and elsewhere. Guido, you are on the floor.
Okay. Good morning, everybody over there. hope the techniques will work. Then that's maybe easier for the participants to follow.
One moment. Yes. Now, yes. You can go ahead.
I would like to say that there is some differences between the global IMO approach and the EU or the European approach. So IMO, over there you have a MARPOL convention. MARPOL convention is about provision of port reception facilities to handle the different types of waste from Annex 1 to Annex 6. And there is, in the same time, in the MARPOL Convention, a kind of a permit that under certain conditions you can dispose waste into the sea. And let's say, to be honest, enforcement is limited, because if you look around in the GISIS database of IMO, you see that still plenty of countries don't provide port reception facilities, or there are alleged deficiencies in these facilities. The EU side, on the other hand, Europe has brought an European legislation in 2000. Sorry. And over there you have an obligation there is an obligation to produce a waste management plan for the ports, meaning that if you know in the past you had 5,000 ships of a certain size and type coming from a certain origin, that you can calculate potential volumes of waste. And the idea is that in the port waste management plan, you can show that the facility that is available in your port, or in the bigger ports, you have several facilities competing with each other, that these facilities have enough capacity to handle the waste coming from the ships. There is an obligation to provide port reception facilities, and this is verified by European Maritime Safety Agency, EMSA, based in Lisbon. So they do from time to time visits in the different European countries to verify if the reception facilities are up to standards. There is also a principle in Europe that ships may not sail to the next port of call if there is a risk that the capacity on board of the ships to store waste, be it liquid, be it solid, isn't sufficient. So that means that there is a kind of a check by port state control, that if the tanks or the storage area on board is, let's say, 50% or more filled up, that they have to deliver mandatory the waste to the port reception facility. This is verified by port state control. There is also an obligation to deliver certain types of cargo residues, since we had some difficulties with persistent cargo that produces blocks of plastic floating in the sea and polluting beaches. And there is an obligation to inspect vessels. So within the port state control services, there is normally in most European ports a separate unit just dealing with the environmental issues of a vessel, be it waste, be it ballast water and so on. And these are the technicians, sometimes people that have worked in engine rooms of vessels, so they know if the volumes which are on board are realistic, yes and no. So this is, let's say, the main difference. The provision of a port waste management plan, which is valid for 3 years, have to be approved by the environmental agencies of the countries and the Maritime agency, if you want. And the fact that there is a mandatory delivery as a principle, so that you're not allowed to dump waste into the sea if it can be brought to the shore side. And another element which is crucial is that the fee system should be developed, so you are free to develop a fee system, but for the garbage you have to put no special fee. For the liquid waste, so Annex 1, sludge and bilge water, you can have a direct fee system, but the fee system must be in such a way that it will help the vessels to discharge. So if you have a direct fee system, then the choice is to the ship. If we deliver, we have to pay the full price. If you have a system like in Nigeria, as explained by Mr. Umar, where every vessel calling the ports have to pay a fee, and for that fee you can deliver the waste, it will be better. It will be better for the port reception facility, and it would be better for the environment. So next slide is about the waste notification. So like in many African ports, you have a port community system where all notifications are included.
Hello, Hudo.
So you have...
Hudo, can I interrupt, please?
Yes.
Can I interrupt, please? Are you able to see the slides that you are presenting?
I'm sorry?
Are you able to see the slides that you are presenting, please?
I can see the slides that are showed, yes.
You see them? Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify. Okay.
Yeah, I see them.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
I see them now, yes.
Thank you. So kindly go ahead, please.
Yeah, okay. So in Europe, there is an obligation to have a national single window. That means that all traffic of the different ports of a country, these notifications about the cargo, about the crew, about the passenger list, about hazardous cargo, about waste, should be notified within this national single window. So next slide, it is a more detailed slide about the waste notification. So you have the IMO waste types, and which is then a little bit different is that we also request the previous port that was called and the previous port where you have delivered the waste. if this is a European port, all these waste notifications and waste receipts will come into a European-wide system. But if the port before the EU port is, for example, an Asian or an African port, then we would like to know what was the port and if the waste was delivered over there, yes or no. And then we can calculate on the number of sailing days what is the expected amount of waste which is generated during the voyage. So next slide, please. So you see also over there the details about the Annex 5 with the plastics, and everything has to be filled in. What is generated, what is on board, what will be delivered, and what remains on board, so that we have an idea when we know the next port of call, if you can reach the next port of call safely or not. If this cannot be done, we will request, I mean Port State Control will request that the ship will deliver the waste ashore before sailing to the next port. Next slide, please. So the EU-wide system of EMSA, of the European Maritime Safety Agency, combines different signals like the AIS signal or satellite and so on. So, and when ships are coming into the EU area, then from overseas, from the south, from Africa, from the east, from Asia, or from the west, from United States or Canada, the ship will be picked up, will be identified, and will have to deliver a number of notifications to the EU system before it arrives in the port itself. So over there you have then, alongside the coast, updated information before it arrives in the port. Next slide, please. There is also an EU-wide maritime monitoring system. So Port State Control is together in an EU inspection, reporting, monitoring and verification database. So all information about the ship, technical, the documents, if it has delivered waste, what was the past record of waste notification, or what was the past record of deficiencies. Everything is put in one single European-wide database, and based on the risk analysis, you will check the vessel together with sometimes the priorities that are put forward by Paris Memorandum of Understanding or by other organizations. That TETIS database has also information from port reception facilities. So waste notification is combined with the waste disposal or the waste receipt issued by the port reception facilities. So you have a timeline and format if the vessel is regularly delivering waste, yes or no. When there are irregularities, then of course you have a more strict inspection scheme than for the vessels that are following very carefully the delivery of waste. So this is, let's say, in a nutshell, the European procedures. Now I will go a little bit more in detail by using my own port, the Port of Antwerp. So next slide. So this is the inspection scheme. It starts with the waste notification. If there is no waste notification given to the port, then you get already a fine of 500 euros in Antwerp, and the agents, the ship agents is obliged to deliver the waste notification. If the waste notification is not correct in the sense that there is a kind of check by the harbor master's office of the port, then they can call the agent to say, look, this is not normal, this is not possible, please check with the captain, and if necessary, please rectify the notification. So if there is a waste notification missing, if the waste notification says we will not deliver waste, then the risk is higher that this vessel will be selected for inspection. Next slide. So something about Port of Antwerp. It is a river-based port, about 70 kilometers from the sea. It is a landlord port, meaning the Port Authority is owned by the city of Antwerp, and inside the port you have then private companies operating in container terminal handling, refineries, oil tank storage, chemical tank storage, warehousing, and so on and so on. The port is operating in the EU, and they receive about 15,000 ships a year. Last turnover in 2021 was something of a little bit more than 200 million tons of cargo. Next slide. So over here you have the number of ships that is calling every year and the type of ships, so about 30% tankers, general cargo, container vessels 1/3, and so on. This is necessary to get an idea about the potential volumes that you can expect. Next slide. The port provides also ship waste statistics. These are included in the port waste management plan that has to be drafted every 3 years. So now they are preparing a new waste management plan for the Port of Antwerp. So collected Annex 1, 90,000, almost 100,000 cube of oily waste. Annex 2, so the wash waters from chemical tankers is about 31,000 cubic meters. Annex 4, 1,599 cube of sanitary water. Annex 5, solid waste, garbage, mixed of domestic and hazardous waste is about 20,000 cubic meters. And you have Annex 6. This is then waste falling under Annex 6. There was nothing collected in 2019. Next slide. So the fee system is that each ship has to contribute, this is based on EU requirements, to the system, irrespective if the ship will discharge yes or no. And the fee is composed of 2 elements, a fixed element and a variable part. So the fixed contribution is all ships under 3,000 gross tonnage pay at least 100 euros, and above 3,000 gross tonnage, they pay 150 euros. On top, they pay 0.009 euros for 1 gross tonnage. So an example, a container vessel of 65,000 gross tonnage will pay 150 fixed plus 65,000 multiplied with 0.009 or 585 euros. Both together, it's 735 euros. Maximum waste fee in the Port of Antwerp and in many ports in Europe is that it is limited to a certain amount, because over a certain size, the waste generation is not following anymore the size of the vessel. So that means that if there is a maximum waste fee of 800, this is the maximum you will pay. And for that fee, you can dispose oily waste 330. For that waste, you can deliver a certain amount of waste for free, and above that amount, you have to pay extra. So you see over there the figures. I don't go too much in detail because these systems can vary between Rotterdam, Hamburg, Le Havre, Marseille, Greek ports. But in general, the garbage is, you can deliver garbage for free because you have paid the fixed fee. So this was in a nutshell the EU system. So based on ports have to make a port waste management plan. Each vessel has to contribute to the existence of port reception facilities. The new EU legislation says the garbage delivery should be for free, should be for if the vessel pays a fixed fee, it could deliver unlimited amounts of garbage. And for the Annex 1 or the Annex 4 waste, you can pay extra if needed, and cargo residues are not included in the fee system. So over there you have a direct fee system. The system is monitored by very strict by port state control, and there is a minimum of inspections that have to be carried out. In the old EU directive of 2000, 1 on 4 ships should be inspected with respect to waste handling. In the new directive of 2019 coming into force this year, the tariff is going down to 15%. And in principle, everything is inside an EU-wide database, so we can see if it delivers in an other port, yes or no. If a ship sails to the next port of call, within Europe, we have a notification that volumes of waste remained on board, were not delivered, so that the next port of call doesn't start from scratch. They know this was already on board and remains on board of the ship in the port of Antwerp, and from there we have X days of sailing to the next port. So the Sorry that I was disconnected. I don't know if it was from my side or at your side. Okay, I just finished my presentation. If there are questions, I'm available.
Now, Mr. Harry had just left us for a few minutes, but if you have any question, you can ask. Hello? The floor is open for questions, please. Any question? Okay, so let me just give it.
My question has to do with the certification, because you can see along all the countries that they've been involved in this MARPOL facility, they all have different design and a way of issuing their certificate. So why don't we standardize it? Something like a conformity, so that when you see that this certificate is fake, because I just heard from Dr. Harry during one of his contributions that there were some fake certificates around somewhere. So in this case, I can sit in my comfort office and also design a certificate, stamp and sign, and use it as my, on my vessel. Because if in Nigeria, if you bought a vessel coming from Nigeria, they have a different design of the certificate. Ivory Coast, different design of the certificate. Ghana also have a different design. Even in Ghana, among us, some of us have a different design of the certificate. So I don't think it is standard. Because if we are all using one currency, like if we say we are spending the dollar, wherever you go around the world, it's the same dollar. You can't go to Ghana and see a different design of a dollar. You can't go to Nigeria and find a different design of dollar. It's all the same dollar design. But some of not all of the certificates are different designed. And I don't see it as a standard document. Thank you very much.
I don't know if this is to the presenter. Yeah, so please, over to you. I hope you heard them. You heard him. Hello? I think you were talking about certificates. And the fact that when you come to Africa, we have different, formats. Yeah, but how about Europe? Do they have the same? Okay, so now you can answer our question, please. He's not getting the question.
Guido, can you hear us, please? No. Hello, can you hear us, please?
Are you addressing me?
Yes, because there was a question and they wanted to respond. So we wanted to
Yes,
hear.
but
If you...
I haven't heard the question.
Okay, so the question will be put again. So kindly listen and then you can answer, please.
Hello, sir. Are you with us? Hello.
Can you hear, please?
I hear you, yes. Thank you.
Okay. The question has to do with the certification. How
yes.
How the various countries have been issuing their certificates, the templates and everything, design, it's not standardized. Because if you go to the various countries, as they also involved in the port reception facilities, we were expecting to see a very standardized certificates across the world, across the globe, for that matter. But if you go to Nigeria, Ivory Coast, to mention very little few, you can see that all the countries have their own style of design. Ghana have their design, Ivory Coast, Nigeria, even Belgium, wherever. Some ships comes from, continental ships also calls here. When you go on board, you find a different certificate. Why can't you design a common certificate, if possible sealed, to make it authentic, that this certificate is genuine, it's coming from, a recognized port reception facility, than, giving us the opportunity to design our own certificates, which I can easily design one in my home. Thank you.
So if I understand the question well, you are talking about the certificates that are used for delivering the waste, or the certification of the port reception facilities?
Yeah, the certificates that we issue, the individual companies issues to the vessels after the inspection.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's not about the ports. I don't know what goes into the port documentation.
In the EU legislation, the model is an annex to the legislation. So you have the waste notification that has to be followed by all 800 ports in Europe. The waste receipt has also be standardized and is also an attachment to the legislation. So in Europe, we are based on the latest IMO waste receipt, and this is mandatory for European ports to be followed.
Guido, do you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
I just want to make a little clarification. You know, when the vessels discharge their waste into a facility, the facility issues the ship with a certificate indicating that they have collected this type of waste of this kind of quantity.
Yeah.
So this is what he is saying, that these certificates are different for different countries, different companies. Why can't it be standardized so that you avoid falsity, fakeness, and all those kind of stuff? So he's wondering why we cannot have a standardized certificate issued by PRFs to vessels that have discharged their waste in ports.
Yes, it is standardized, and you have the obligation to follow the English text, and you can add your own national language text as well. But for the international maritime world, everybody understands or should understand English. So the document is at least in English, or it is English together with the national language. So for the rest, everything should be the same. The EU follows the latest IMO text, which is issued in the MEPC 1/834, I think, with the guidance to port reception facilities, where you have the waste notification, the very detailed one, and you have the waste receipt. So, and the waste receipt is then stamped by the local port reception facility that has taken the waste. Sometimes it can be more than one waste collector, could be one for solid waste and another one for liquid waste. So then the captain will have two waste receipts, And these waste receipts go into, like as explained, the national IT system, and it is linked with the Ministry of Environment or the environmental agency. So the agency knows that facility has received, let's say, 30 cube of oily waste with an indication sludge or bilge water and so on. So then you know after processing what amount of oil will remain, and for that you can then track to the next step if the oil will be processed within the facility, let's say in a micro refinery or in another treatment facility, how much oil products will come out of that waste. If it is solid waste, then you have to justify that waste is sorted out, that plastic is going to a recycling company, the metals are going to that company. So the waste collector has its own bookkeeping and will be checked every year.
That is not standardized. Because, please, you know we have a certain agency called BV, Bureau Veritas. If you see this document coming from Bureau Veritas, it is global. There's no way you can adjust it. You can't do anything to it. That is the whole world. We have, that is like SGS and other places. Yes.
BV is a certification organization. It's not a...
No, I'm just giving an example.
Exactly. So don't compare apples and oranges.
No, okay. But in this case, if the facilities, our facilities, can also do same, because I can design certificate today. It will surprise you.
That's why we... Yeah, okay,
From what he said, my understanding was that the kind of information is standard as provided by IMO, but it's got to do with how you're going to design it. Yes, but the content of information that is required is on every form. But you will have to design your form in this way. But your point that I'm trying to, what you are trying to say is we should standardize it so that if anybody sees it, clearly you could know that, yeah, but that's a suggestion. Something that that is your suggestion. But currently what he's saying is the information needed to be on the form has to be on the form. And then you design it the way you want it in terms of language or the form. But then if we need company name, the type of waste discharge, the volumes, where it's coming from, all this basic information need to be on the form. Yes. Yeah, but now with IT today, anybody can design any form.
Okay, I guess you put it here. That's why we are here in this workshop. So we want to look at all the challenges and address them. But what you have to understand is that international legislations, we learned, that's what we started yesterday with the regulations guiding these. It's a broad regulation, but each country adopts it in its local context. So the standard information is there, but how it is designed is different. The EU have been able to bring their people together, standardize. We also want to start for ourselves in Africa. We start cooperating, we start agreeing how to do it, we start accepting how to standardize it. So that's the process. So your problem is why we are here. How then do we move to achieve what you want us to do? Thank you, sir. So
I'm the owner of this right.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you. Widow, are you there?
Yes, I'm still there.
Any question? Any other question? Okay.
Hello. I want you to clarify this for me. using your single window. Are you saying that because you have a lot of satellites, when a ship is coming, you are able to spot the ship to know that this ship has this or that to discharge? Because under the convention, there is a clear provision for advance notification. I want you to clarify that, because we used to have that challenge in Ghana. So please clarify that for me. Thank you.
So if I understand your question well, it is about this maritime single window where all information from the ships are gathered together from different sources, satellite, automatic identification system, and so on. So if a ship is mandatory equipped with automatic identification system, you know the routing, you know the speed, you know the, let's say, the elementary details about the cargo. This is all centralized in a database, and based on IMO documents, you need to notify the information about crew, passengers, the stores on board, hazardous cargo, and so on, to different authorities. In Europe, there is an obligation that all this information goes to one IT system, and that the information over there is shared by the national police, the port authority, the customs, which are in charge of the stores and the cargo for declaration. The police is in charge for the crew and for the passengers. They are in charge together with other security departments for the security level, and the waste is in Europe shared with environmental agencies and port state control. So this is one single window. This is an EU obligation. Every country should have a national system, and the EU itself is combining the information of all these individual systems. So certain countries are maybe not that far developed in IT, so then also for smaller ports and so on, information from fax or email can be the messages and brought into the system. I don't know if this answers your question.
Does it? Does it answer your question? Okay, so we get another dimension here, information database, that is digitized. So all the institutions that are connected, it's keyed in and everybody can access it. So that's what he's trying to say. So the national systems are there, but also connected to the European Union as a regional bloc. And that's it there. Any other question? Okay, Hudo, thank you very much. Can we give him a round of applause for? Yeah.
I wish you a fruitful meeting.
So thank you very much, Kudo, for your time and for the presentation. We look forward to seeing you again in September, God willing, and then we can take it more, a step further. Thank you so much, as always. Bye-bye. Okay, so that's what we had. That's the European system, very advanced, but lessons to learn. We ask ourselves, and good suggestion coming up there. These are the things that we want to all tease our minds with and see what we can do with the knowledge that is coming up. So note it well. Tomorrow, your workshop, you tell us what that kind of rights that you want to own should be like. So we move to the next presentation. We were supposed to have a break for coffee, but I guess we've already had it as we sat down. So we would have the next presentation that is coming from the Dutch. So that's the Netherlands Ministry of Environment. So their unit that is responsible for the human environment and transport. So they'll give us a presentation. I think yesterday some things came up on all these sulfur content and all these. So we're going to hear more on that from this presentation. Astrid, are you available?
Yes, I am.
Thank you so much, Astrid. Thank you for your time. Thank you for accepting to be with us. Yeah, we see you there. So, you have the floor to talk to us on your presentation, which takes us on sulfur emissions from ships, and then also the challenge of African blends. I think it's very interesting for all of us, African blends. So that's talking about the quality of oils, fuels that is coming into our countries. So Astrid, go ahead, please.
Thank you for this opportunity to share some experiences from the Netherlands, from the enforcement in the Netherlands. My name is Astrid de Liesprong, and I work at the Human Environment and Transport Inspectorate. My field of expertise is MARPOL enforcement. And I would like to tell you something about sulfur enforcement and African blends. Let me try to share my presentation. Maybe, Harry, maybe you can share the presentation because it's difficult for me.
Yes. Astrid, one moment. Let's try to share it from here.
Yes. Thank you. I will start this presentation, like I said, with the sulfur enforcement. Please go to the next slide. Yeah, first sulfur enforcement and then African blends. Next slide, please. I would like to start with the year 2020. It was an important year for all of us because the IMO started with the sulfur ban. It's really new that not only SICA countries, but all countries in the world should use a limit for the sulfur content in fuel oil. And that's 0.50% sulfur. New is also that you are not allowed to have high sulfur fuel on board. That's also new, because first it was only the in-use fuel that had to be compliant. Well, Appendix 6 to MARPOL Annex 6 had to be amended for this, and this is written down in an MEPC resolution, like you probably know. So for all countries, it's new to enforce sulfur quality in bunker fuel. For the Netherlands, it was not new. We are a SICA country, a sulfur emission controlled area country, and we do have experience since 2015. Let me tell you something about our daily practice. Our inspectors always start with a documentation check. It's the check of the bunker delivery note. Is the sulfur content below 0.50? And also a check of the ship's logbooks, especially the oral record book part 1. And if there's any indication that the fuel is not compliant, we go further. We also do onboard sampling. Please look at the picture at this slide. You can see 4 cases when we do an
Hello, Astrid? Hello, Astrid? I guess we lost you.
I hope I'm back.
Okay,
I lost
okay,
you too.
okay, okay. Okay.
Well, I don't know for how long this connection was, but I'll start with the onboard sampling. And when we start an onboard sampling, it is when an international alert is in our systems, in TTIS EU. But we also have our own remote sensing methods. We perform sniffer flights with our Belgian colleagues. We do have a fixed sniffer station at Hoek van Holland. That's before the port of Rotterdam. And sometimes there's a port state control inspector or other inspector who finds a situation and wants a more detailed inspection. So in those 4 cases, we do onboard sampling. And a very useful document is the 2020 guidelines for onboard sampling of the IMO. This is about the sampling point, sampling locations, sampling procedure. I could tell a lot more about it, but due to time constraints, I will leave it here. But if there are any questions, I will be happy to answer them. I would also like to refer to the EMSA Sulfur Inspection Guidance. It's a very useful document for onboard sampling inspections. Now back to the onboard sampling. We do have handheld equipment, XRF equipment, to check the sulfur content in fuel oil. And when we find high values of sulfur in the fuel oil, we send 2 bottles, 2 samples to a laboratory at shore. Within a few hours, we get the results and we know if the fuel is compliant or not. And when there's an exceedance of the limit, we'll give a warning. When the exceedance is higher, we also do a notification in our TTIS EU system. And the fuel must be changed. If the exceedance is really high, there will follow a detention. We will inform port state control and a penalty is applied. Most of the time it is a fine. Every year we do 800, please the former slide for just 1 second. We do 800 inspections a year, and I must say document checks a year. And we do 160 onboard samplings a year. And for the document check, we have a nice cooperation with our local harbor authorities. They do the document check while doing their own regular inspection. And that's a really good cooperation. And I wonder if you do such kind of inspections too at the local authorities. Maybe for the later discussion. Next slide, please. Like I said before, it's not only important to check the in-use fuel, but also the bunker fuel. And well, it's really hard to reach the bunker tanks. Recently, we developed a method to sample those bunker tanks, which are sometimes deeper and further away than the in-use fuel system. And well, I added some information about the information document we made. It's an IMO info paper. In 2021, we did 75 measurements, and those were all compliant. Next slide, please. Overall, our compliance rate is fairly high. Only 1.2% of the fuel oil is non-compliant nowadays in the Netherlands. So it's really important to focus and to get to aim our effort to other areas. We started a cooperation with countries in the North Sea and the Baltic Sea, and develop a monitoring strategy. We determine high-risk priority areas based on sulfur emissions, NOx emissions from ships, and we try to do sniffer flights and have fixed sniffer stations only in the high-risk priority areas. So that's mostly efficient. The last development is that we use satellite information. We try to make this available for the whole world, because those are data from the whole world. And for NOx, even you can see for individual ships the ship's emissions. So it's really useful information to select those ships and await them in the port and do an inspection.
Astrid?
I'm back again.
You're back again, okay.
I'm very sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. No problems, we understand, yeah. But then once again, one moment, Astrid, I interfere here. Once again, let's remember, it's streaming live on all the Antwerp social media handles. Go there, share, comment, and then keep it active and live. Go ahead, please, Astrid.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but you are very hard to hear. I cannot quite get what you were saying. Something with notes or comments, but
it was an announcement I was making to indicate that it's streaming live on the Antwerp, which is a kind of information center for the Port Authority. So we want people to go there and then comment on it and then also share. So it was basically to indicate that it's live on social media. So you are streaming live on social media. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, I did not quite get it. Can I continue with the presentation?
Yes, please continue. Continue, yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next slide, please, about the African blends. Like you might know, we made a report about the African blends in 2018. It was about car fuels and bunker fuel oil in West Africa. My colleagues already told a lot about it, so I won't go and repeat it. But in general, I would like to say that it's very important that only products are blended and not waste and products. And to enforce this, we use the REACH administration. Next slide, please. Today I will focus on bunker fuel oil, and I'll start with telling the limits, and then how we want to enforce this. The limits of fuel oil are described in the MARPOL Annex 6, in Regulation 18. And it's a quite vague description. Bunker oil must not contain substances that damage the functioning of the ship's engine, lead to additional air pollution, pose a danger to the ship and its personnel. Now that's really vague. You cannot use this very properly. What we do have is in the MARPOL Annex 6, bunker oil must be free from inorganic acids, and the sulfur content has a limit. Well, in Europe, we do have legislation about bunker fuel oil, but yeah, it's not enough for the enforcement of the bunker fuel oil. So what do? Next slide, please. Our inspectors look at the sulfur content in fuel oil. That's what we do. But in addition, we developed a bunker license scheme with the Port of Rotterdam. And that's really useful and a good development, because we made a list of undesirable substances in bunker fuel oil. And here you can see a small part of that list. It's a longer list. And you can look it up just on the internet when you check list of undesirable substances. And well, it's a good cooperation. It's a good framework to start when you want to check and enforce the bunker fuel oil content. And it would be great if this list will be used by more countries to create a good level and a worldwide level level playing field. Sorry, I was searching for the words. So, well, this is, in summary, in short, what I wanted to tell about sulfur content and bunker fuel quality in general. I could imagine there are questions, but I'm in a position that I cannot hear you properly, so that's what will be a good solution. Thanks for your attention anyway.
Astrid, thank you for your presentation. I will give the floor if there are questions, but I guess I would ask you, I would put the first question. Why the title or the name African Blends? Why do you call it African Blends? Then I give the mic out.
Why do I vote for African blends?
African blends. African blends. You talked of the sulfur content as the first part, and then we talked about African blends. So why African blends? Is there any special blend that comes to Africa, or what?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Well, that's because those blends were exported to West Africa. So there are blends made and used within Europe, but there are also blends made for Africa. And well, we examined the blends, the African blends, so supposed to be used in Africa. And we find high exceedances of substances in those blends that were not supposed to be in those blends. But it's very hard to do something about this, because we do need national legislation for the enforcement of those blends.
So in this case, the fuels coming to Africa do not meet international quality and standards, right? Okay? So, thanks very much. So we need to do something about that. We're killing ourselves with the kind of emissions that are coming out of the fuels we are using in Africa.
Would it be possible to use another microphone? Because I really cannot hear you. I'm so sorry.
So the blends coming here are substandard. Yeah. And that means that we are generating negative impact on our health and on our environment, considering the kind of fuels that are coming into Africa. And it needs attention.
Yeah, it really does. And it would extremely help if we all use the same list of undesirable substances in bunker fuel oil. And the Port of Rotterdam has made a good list. And the basis is an IMO list, but it's also European legislation is added. And yeah, it would help us tremendously if we all use the same list.
Thank you very much for that one. So we'll pick that and see how we can collaborate to work on that. But there's a question on the floor for you.
Thank you very much for your wonderful presentation. Yeah, I'm much more interested in the Annex 6 because it's the most recent one that came to force. And it also has certain correlation with climate change, which is becoming very topical in recent days. I want to find out whether the sampling of vessel is done in the Netherlands. Is it done on all vessels or at random? That's the first question that I want to find out. And then, secondly, I also want to find out who does the sampling. Hello? Who does the sampling? Is it the Port Authority or the Port State? I also want to find out, thirdly, the possible sanctions that are met out to non-conforming vessels to the 0.5 sulfur content required. And then, lastly, I want to know the kind of gadgets that you use in doing your monitoring. Because from your presentation, it looks like you have a gadget that you take on board to check whether the sulfur content in the vessels that they are coming to the port is up to the 0.5 required. Thank you.
Thank you. Luckily, I could hear you. So, let me start by who is doing the sampling. We do have sulfur inspectors, and they do the sampling. And to be more precise, we let the chief engineer choose the location of the sampling and let him do the sampling. And the inspector approves the location. Another question, are all vessels inspected or just specific vessels? We do use remote sensing, and the remote sensing, it's a fixed sniffer station at the Port of Rotterdam. So all vessels are sniffered. We do not choose what vessel will be sniffered. It's a random thing. But of course, only those ships who have high emissions will be inspected. The chance that we find a non-compliance is about 2% if we work random. But if we work with sniffers, it's much higher. It will be 15% or higher. So it really pays off to to sniffer ships before going on board. So the risk-based targeting of ships is really, it improves significantly the number of non-compliances you find. About the sanctions, if the exceedance is really high, and then we take 0.15 as a limit, because we do not have 15 instead of 50, because we have 1.0. Oh, sorry. Let me start. The Netherlands is a SICA country. We have our own limit, and the limit is 0.1. If we find 0.15, then it's a really high significant exceedance of the limit, and then there will be prosecution by it's a legal sanction then, and a fine will be issued in that case. If there's only an exceedance of 0.12, it's only a warning. And that's how we sanction things. But like I said, we do not have many non-compliant fuels nowadays. Only a few per year. There was another question about monitoring, but I lost it. Sorry.
Yeah, so from what you said, you stated that you have sulfur inspectors. I want to know where these sulfur inspectors are coming from. Are they from the port state or from the port authority? That's what I want to know, that which institution is responsible for the sampling of these emissions that are coming from the vessels. Thank you.
Yeah, we do have our European sulfur regulations. So we have dedicated sulfur inspectors, and they are not necessarily port state control inspectors. So we have dedicated sulfur inspectors, and we gave a mandate to our local port authorities to also inspect on it. So both the local port authorities and the dedicated sulfur inspectors are doing inspections. And when there's really something, there are big offenses, we always go to port state control in order to get a detention and to enforce the change of the fuel, because then it's it has a high impact on a ship, and you need port state control to enforce things.
So more or less, there's collaboration between the port state control and the port authority or the dedicated sulfur inspectors in ensuring the implementation of Annex 6 in the Netherlands. In summary, that's what it means. Okay. Thank you very much.
There's another question for you, Astrid.
Yeah, I would like to know who bears the cost for the laboratory analysis? Is it the shipping line or the port authority? I don't know whether it gets me. I would like to know who bears the cost for the lab analysis. Yeah.
Yeah, we do have a contract with the laboratory, so we pay the costs of the analysis. It's not for the ship.
So you pay for the cost because you have the laboratory, but when there's an infringement, then there are fines. So those fines could then cover some of your costs, right?
No, those are separate things. But I have to admit that I do not know it exactly. So I can give that answer later on.
Okay, okay. So we put that for another time. Any other question, please? I thought you wanted to ask a question. You don't?
Yes.
Do.
I was talking about a documentary I watched recently on Netflix concerning how the European countries and even the Americas are dumping waste clothes, waste shoes, and electronics into Africa. And I'm just wondering whether our port reception facilities sometimes encounter some of these items. And when you do, are you obliged to report to a certain authority in the country and not just take them because of the want to do business? Because if we keep taking them and we do not report to the right authority for it to be addressed at a higher stage, we might wake up one day to a serious calamity.
Yeah, it's a pity that our former speaker is not available anymore, because maybe he knows the answer. I'm afraid I do not know the answer.
Yeah, but Astrid, maybe here you could share with us the efforts at preventing illegal shipments of electronic waste, for example, because we did work with ILT on some of these processes. At least that the Netherlands government is trying to stop it, and they have these regulations in place for the testing and all this with this station at Amsterdam. You could share that with us, for example, to indicate that there is some effort to stop it, but it has to be international collaboration, maybe.
Yeah, it's very hard to prevent an export of something when you do not have limits or regulations. Sometimes we prevent some kind of export, and then it's a kind of environmental crime, and you can do something about it. But it's really hard to act when you see something being exported, when you do not have the means to do something about it. I know there are a few cases where we try to prosecute environmental crimes, but it's extremely hard to do something about it.
All right, thank you. I think there was some hand, yes.
Thank you very much. Madam, with the standard fuel oil of 3.5, now reduced to 0.5 and then now 0.1. To take care of that, there was this information that all ships that are not ready to handle a fuel oil type of 0.5 must have scrubbers on board to arrest the smoke or whatever it takes in order to generate the water we call soot water. Does that mean, from what you have said, Netherlands, you don't accept vessels that are using fuel of 3.5, but yet they have scrubbers on board? I hope I'm clear. I should reframe again.
Did I understand you correctly that it is about the new limit of 0.5 sulfur in fuel oil, and that the world was not ready, and some ships chose for scrubbers to comply with the regulations? I don't know the specific question. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's very hard to hear what is being said.
The question is this: the standard fuel oil of 3.5.
Yeah.
And because of the problem of the ozone layer, it has to be changed to 0.5. That call for the implementation of the Annex 6. And I'm asking that the vessels that are using that heavy fuel, in the introduction, during the introduction of the convention of that particular annex, was to have scrubbers to help deal with the situation for some time. And I'm saying that as at now, if a vessel has a scrubber and using the fuel of a 3.5 with your sniffers and all those things, does that mean you don't allow that vessel onto your terminals or your ports in Netherlands?
When you do have a scrubber on board, it's allowed to have also fuel oil on board with 3.5%. Maybe it's better to end this question session because I really cannot hear it. It's
okay.
I'm very sorry. Or use the chat or another way, because I cannot answer the question because I cannot hear the question.
We will send you a mail on the question, and then you can answer, and then we will circulate amongst the participants. We'll get the question clarified and then emailed to you, and then it will be circulated among the participants.
Okay.
Because all that, the sum of it all is basically, if you allow vessels that come in that do not meet the 0.5 now and have scrubbers, do you allow them in the ports in the Netherlands? Basically, that's the question. Vessels with scrubbers, do you allow them in the port?
Yes, we do allow vessels with scrubbers in our ports, but they may not use the scrubbers. They must change the fuel and yeah.
So they may be allowed in, but they will have to change the fuel to meet the requirements of what is allowed in the Netherlands.
Yeah, shall I come back on that with a written answer?
Okay, yes, please. We'll do
better.
that. Yes, we'll do it that way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so Astrid, a very big thank you for your time and for this presentation. We will definitely get back to you and look forward to meeting you in September if all things work well. And then we can take some of these practicalities properly. Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the last presentation for the day. Next session is for us to just maybe we can have simple reflections over the 2 days. And then we prepare ourselves for the field trip to visit. Hello. What's the name of your facility? What's the name of your facility? Okay. So we will be going to the EcoStar plant to see what they do and take us through. And as we get there and we listen to what they do, at the back of our minds, we've heard lots of presentations on the legal requirements, and then on the practice, also from the other sides. We can just make notes of these, and then we'll see. Oh, okay. Right. Yeah. So, about waste of clothing and other stuff that comes in. Our lady wants to know, do you operators of the reception facilities come across situations where these kind of wastes are added to what you have to receive, for example, and how do you handle them? Clothes, shoes, and other electrical, end-of-life electrical and electronic equipment. Do you, some of these could be pieces of materials released or discharged to you? Whether large or small, you can ignore, yeah? But then?
Landfill sites are packed. Disposing such items has become very difficult because of global warming policies, anti-global warming policies put in place. So they have decided to dispose these dangerous waste in the developing countries. You know, because they know our policies are, let me say, lack of word, weak. And so they can always find ways to bring them. And so I wanted to find out, this is to help the Port Authority, you know, put better measures in place to ensure that in our bid we can help fight that menace of our society. So that's why I wanted to find out.
Yeah, okay, let me just contribute. Yeah. It's on. Yeah. The issue you are talking about, different convention altogether. That's the Basel Convention. That is where the waste comes as cargo. They load the waste onto the ship as cargo, shipping it from one country into another country. But MARPOL is dealing with waste that has been generated on board on the vessel. So I don't think the vessel will just collect waste from shore on it and then come and discharge as a MARPOL waste. You understand?
But it can happen. It can happen because maybe if they take it through the other convention, there are breaks that will prevent them from exceeding certain limits, from bringing certain things or with the compliance of certain requirements. But if they are able to go back door through finding ways of putting these waste in vessels that call other ports, they will be able to assist illegally bring these waste in. And it's possible. It is possible. If our waste reception facility operators haven't experienced it, doesn't mean that it is not happening. It is happening.
It's happening.
It is happening.
You know about that.
It is happening.
I want you to contribute.
Okay, just to contribute. Just like our friend was saying, with the MARPOL, I know we're dealing with internally generated waste on board the vessel, whatever that is ship-generated waste. Okay, if it has to do with this used clothing, you know, they package them in another form and even get value out of it and sell it to other countries. If you go to Accra, what's the name of that area where they sell these used clothes? Katamandu. They bring them in bills, huge bills. And our ports accept used clothing. Why don't they ban the importation of used clothing? You see, they dump them here. I mean, in another way. Probably they wouldn't just put them on the vessels and term it as a ship-generated waste for us to receive them in such large quantities. But then they'll find another ways of dumping them in Africa. So the port authorities, if possible, should regulate the importation of this used clothing. I think that would, solve that issue.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah, it's like to rebut what my senior officer said. It is very, very impossible to find at a point of time something like 6 pairs of shoes, or how do you call it, working gears, on the garbage. This tells you that it's very, very impossible that we are shipping a certain commercial goods as garbage to dispose of in a port. I remember one time I personally had a confrontation with one captain who wanted to dispose of his set of, if not furniture, beddings, mattresses, blankets, and all those things. He told me that he has those things in his cabin. He wants to change. I was there when they brought the new ship stores to him, including the mattress and the bed sheet, blankets, and all those stuff, until I agreed that we have to clear those things. So you can't find them. No, it's very, very impossible.
Yeah.
Very, very impossible. To see a bale of used clothes or shoes, when it is overall, we use overall as a working gear. So that's why you can easily dump it. Yeah, thank you. Safety boots and those stuff, gloves and those things.
Yeah, Mr. Harry. Yesterday, when we were discussing about the marine pollution issue, a concept came up that I spoke about, the special area. Today, too surprisingly, I saw another one called SICA. That is what special emission control areas. I'm finding it difficult to accept this concept because when you look at the dynamics of pollution, the environment around the source of pollution is not the only environment that gets affected when there is pollution. An example is, let's say, if there is a huge spillage in Tema Port, it's likely you feel the impact around Cameroon. So this whole idea of carving out some areas and labeling them as special areas makes me think we'll find it very difficult to deal with the global environmental challenges that we are having. And I still don't understand the rationale behind them.
Okay.
Where is your boss? I think he has to take you to school and then that becomes your research for your master's, right?
Yeah.
It's a huge issue. But the issue is that they don't just get labels. They go through an international process. You don't just get out and label. No. You document what your problem is and why you think it should be designated. It goes to the Marine Environment Protection Committee at IMO. It is debated. Some of them it takes years before it finally is agreed. So if your continent is not presenting such labeling, then we're going to get you, young man, to go to school. Your master's, your research topic will be the designation of sensitive areas and why Africa doesn't find one. Put it on. Please note it, right? We're going to work on that for you. I can see the passion there.
Yeah, with my understanding about the used clothing and other stuff to the country, it goes with customs. It's customs who do take all the charges and whatever the revenues on those things. So it's about customs to check those things. If we are to ban it, all lies on customs. It's not about the MARPOL companies because we don't receive those things. So that one goes to the customs.
Waste. Sometimes they shred the clothes, they are not usable. They shred the clothes, they shred even the electronic, the waste. They shred them, but how to dispose them of becomes a very big problem because of the policies out there. So they find ways and means communicating with vessels going to developing countries to help them dispose them. What I'm talking about. I know of thrift clothing, that's false, popularly known, I know of that. But I'm talking about illegal ways of disposing illegal waste, through illegal means. That's what I'm talking about. I know of the custom, all that. I know that. I'm aware of that.
Thank you. I think there's another contribution from there, and then we'll come here.
Hello. Yeah, madam. I think what we are. Hello, madam. Is she with me? Upon that illegal clothes that you are talking about, on the ship they use it as oil racks. They use that particular this thing used clothes at racks, and before they will discharge, they will ask your consent that do you collect oil racks in your port, and if you agree with them before they will discharge, they will never discharge anything useful to you. Mostly they use it as oil racks. Thank you.
Madam, please, it seems that we want to be on you, but we are not being on you. Be assured that all of us here working operation managers, our teams, we are professional in a way. We know what we do when we get on board. So be assured. Having alert us on this thing, we also make sure that those things will not happen. We are supposed to carry from category A to category I, that we are supposed to do that. So be assured of that. Now, also there's a limit of garbage that we collect. If it exceeds and you tell them they will pay, they will not go further. So be assured. We also have another form of garbage we call damage. We don't take damage. Damage are the linings or the vessels and everything. Those ones we don't take it. So once again be assured. Now, Mr. Moderator, yesterday there was a question on the floor. I was looking for the MPS man. He ran away. Today he has come. The issue was that vessels are time sensitive. I think yesterday it was made clear. Today, to our Nigerian counterpart, also made it clear. And I did establish that when you get to the terminal, particularly MPS, you find it difficult to really go through. Their concern has to do with what they call moves. Yesterday I used that word. I'm carefully using that word, moves. The extent to which they will be able to make more moves. That is where their interest lies. Not caring about the MARPOL, unless they are very, very clear with their job before they will give you. So he's here, and he has said it all. If you give him the opportunity to defend or otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hadi. He already has the mic. He wanted to ask a question, but I think he would answer yours first, and then his question will follow. So, you have the mic.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Hadi, I understand what you're saying, but with MPS, time is also very important to us. So you know that we have a notification system. Before the reception facilities come to our terminal, they are supposed to send us a notification indicating the name of the vessel, the type of waste if possible, if they know, then also the time they intend to come to the terminal. We need this information because we normally give you escort to the quayside when you enter because of safety reasons. We don't have a lot of let me say vehicles for those escorts. So for us to plan very well, we need the time. Unfortunately, most of the time when you send the notification forms, I'm not saying only, let me say that EcoStar is, in terms of people who provide us the notification, EcoStar is on top. Most of the other waste is something that